Welcome back. It's really great to have you with us for another deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this one.
Today we are opening with a question that honestly sounds like like it was pulled directly from a pitch meeting for a sci-fi blockbuster.
Right, but it actually stems from some of the oldest literature known to humanity.
Exactly. Here is the question. Was the Brahmastra a nuclear weapon or a targeted frequency laser?
It's just a phenomenal premise to explore.
It really is. And to really get to the bottom of the physics described in these ancient accounts, we have pulled together a massive stack of sources for you today.
Massive is probably putting it lightly.
Yeah, true. We're looking at specific, highly technical excerpts from the ancient epic poems, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana.
The big ones.
Right. And we are cross-referencing those with foundational philosophical and yogic texts. So we've got the Prashna Upanishad, the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and the Hatha Yoga Pradipika.
And to help us anchor the physics behind all of this, because we do need an anchor, we're utilizing the rigorous analytical framework found in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda.
It is quite the reading list.
It is, but it's entirely necessary for our mission today. We are attempting to decode the literal physics of astras.
Right. In ancient Indian texts, astras are typically translated simply as, the weapons of the gods.
Which is why, for centuries, modern readers have just dismissed these descriptions. They brush them off as poetic exaggerations of basic bows and arrows.
Just myth.
Exactly. But when you look at these texts with an engineer's perspective, when you read the Sanskrit for its literal descriptive value, a completely different picture emerges.
We want to find out if these texts actually detail highly advanced directed energy weapons. Weapons that use specific sound frequencies, mantras, as biometric keys and triggers.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the ancient arsenal itself. We have to look at the literal descriptions of these weapons as they appear in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana.
Right, because the vocabulary is very telling.
Yeah, when you dive into a section like the Drona Parva in the Mahabharata, you realize very quickly we're not talking about pointy sticks and sharpened metal.
Not at all.
The texts describe weapons featuring Vidyut, which translates directly to lightning. They detail terrible maces and heavy iron balls that fly through the air, creating sananada.
And that specific word, sanada, is critical to our analysis here.
How so?
Well, it doesn't mean a simple whistle or a battle cry. It translates to a continuous humming or whooshing sound.
A continuous hum. And the text specifically notes that these weapons roar like thunderclouds.
Right.
Then you jump over to the Ramayana and you see the exact same kind of atmospheric, high-energy language. Arrows are described as having impacts similar to a thunderbolt or lightning.
They are literally described as being capable of rending mountains.
Yeah, rending mountains.
Yeah.
The texts even take the time to note that the twang of a warrior's bowstring resembles the deafening crash of a thunderbolt.
It's very specific imagery.
It is. But I have to play the skeptic for a second, though.
Sure.
Could this just be ancient writers using hyperbole? I mean, if you want to make your hero look tough, you say his arrows hit like lightning and his bow sounds like thunder.
Hyperbole is always a factor in epic poetry, obviously. But what stands out here is the consistency and the specific type of hyperbole being used.
You mean it's too specific to just be poetic flair?
Exactly. These do not read like primitive accounts of iron swords and wooden arrows simply being exaggerated.
Right.
The constant, highly specific comparisons to lightning, to thunder, to immense mountain-shattering energy discharges, it strongly suggests the observation of high-energy, explosive phenomena.
So they were seeing something real.
Think about it from a historical linguistics perspective. If an ancient observer witnessed a kinetic bombardment from orbit or a massive plasma discharge, they wouldn't have the vocabulary of modern quantum physics.
No, of course not. They wouldn't use terms like plasma discharge or
directed energy or nuclear yield. Yeah. They would be forced to use the biggest, most terrifying natural phenomena they knew as a point of comparison.
So they would look at a blinding flash of energy that vaporizes a mountain and say, well, that was lightning and the sound was thunder.
Exactly. They're describing the physical effects of massive energy release using the only vocabulary available to them.
That makes a lot of sense. But to me, the most fascinating part of an astra isn't the explosion or the destruction.
What is it?
It is the triggering mechanism. According to the texts, you don't just pull a trigger, draw a string, or light a fuse.
No, you need a mantra.
Right. An astra requires a highly specific mantra to unlock it, and sometimes another one to recall or neutralize it. It functions exactly like modern voice-activated technology.
Or a highly specific biometric key.
Exactly.
And this is where we have to shift our understanding of what a mantra actually is. And for this, we draw heavily on the Hatha Yoga Pradipika.
Because modern people think of mantras differently.
Right. In casual modern conversation, a mantra is often reduced to just a positive affirmation or a mental focal point.
Like something you say to relax.
Exactly. But in the context of these ancient yogic sciences, sound is not just a byproduct of air moving over vocal cords. Sound exists as physical vibrations of varying, highly specific frequencies.
It's an actual physical force being manipulated.
The texts treat it as an engineered force. They describe mantras as sound energy that can literally be transmitted through and manipulate space.
Wow.
It's a fundamental law of acoustics that no two sounds have the exact same frequency. When you combine specific seed syllables, the ancient texts mention syllables like om, kleem, aim, freem.
You're building a frequency.
Right, you are creating a highly complex, specific acoustic signature. You are generating a concentrated momentum of high frequency that can physically affect objects in the material universe.
Okay, I'm tracking with you on the acoustics. We know that a singer can shatter a wine glass if they hit the exact resonant frequency of the glass.
Exactly.
But practically speaking, human vocal cords can only produce so much decibel output. You can't vaporize a mountain or trigger a catastrophic explosion just by shouting really loudly. So how do the texts explain bridging the gap between a human voice, even one chanting a very specific acoustic signature, and a nuclear-level yield?
It all comes down to the concept of resonance rather than pure volume.
Resonance.
Right. If we look at modern physics,
Yeah.
you don't need immense mechanical force to destroy a massive structure if you introduce the correct resonant frequency.
Like a bridge collapsing.
Exactly. We've seen relatively light winds cause massive steel suspension bridges to oscillate and collapse entirely due to resonance.
Oh, right.
The ancient texts propose a similar mechanism, but on a quantum or subatomic scale. A specific vocal frequency could act as a micro-trigger for a much larger directed energy apparatus.
A micro-trigger. That makes sense.
But the texts go further than just the physical sound waves.
And this is where the Patanjali Yoga Sutras completely recontextualize the process.
They do.
Patanjali breaks down the mechanics of this sound generation, explaining the concept of sabda, which is the word, or the acoustic sound itself,
Right.
and artha, which is the meaning, the intent, or the cognitive focus behind it. He states that when these two elements fuse together perfectly, it links a person's mento-emotional energy to a concentrating force.
Unlocking an astra isn't just about perfectly pronouncing a sound like you're speaking a password into your smartphone.
It's not just a voice command.
No, it requires the intense, focused mental energy behind the vibration. The operator's consciousness has to be perfectly aligned with the acoustic frequency.
So the human mind is essentially acting as the amplifier for the acoustic trigger.
Precisely.
The warrior isn't just vibrating their vocal cords. They are aligning their entire neurological and physiological focus to project that specific frequency.
Which perfectly explains why not just anyone could pick up a legendary bow, shout the mantra they overheard, and fire a Brahmastra.
You couldn't just steal the weapon and use it.
Exactly. It required decades of intense mental and physical discipline to achieve that exact fusion of Sabda and Artha. You had to generate the correct frequency both acoustically and mentally to serve as the key.
Okay, I am wrapping my head around the trigger mechanism. But a trigger still needs a payload.
True.
So what does this all mean? If the mantra is just the biometric key, what is the actual ammunition?
That's the big question.
Right, if an astra isn't a physical missile carrying a warhead of gunpowder or uranium, where does the destructive energy actually come from?
To answer the payload question, we have to look at how these ancient texts understood the physics of the universe itself.
The big picture.
Yes. For this, we turn to the philosophical synthesis found in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, as well as the Prashna Upanishad.
Okay.
When you look at the macro-level physics described in these texts, you see that ancient Indians had essentially mapped out a framework for theoretical physics millennia ago.
Walk us through that framework, because bridging ancient philosophy with theoretical physics requires some very specific definitions.
Absolutely. According to this ancient framework, the entire universe, everything we can perceive and interact with, consists of basically two fundamental forces or materials.
Only two.
Right. First, there is Akasha. You can conceptualize Akasha as infinite, omnipresent matter or ether.
So it's the raw material.
Yes, it is the undifferentiated material building block of the universe. Everything that has form is molded out of Akasha.
And the
The
second?
second, there is prana. Prana is the infinite, omnipresent manifesting power, force, or energy.
So to simplify the terminology for our analysis, Akasha is matter and prana is energy.
That is the foundation. Furthermore, the texts are explicitly clear. Absolutely everything, gravitation, magnetism, physical motion, and even the electrical impulses of human thought, is just a manifestation of prana.
Wait, so if Akasha is the matter, are you saying prana is literally every single force acting upon that matter?
Everything.
Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, all of those are just different manifestations of one unified energy.
The texts treat them all as different expressions of prana. It is remarkably analogous to modern unified field theories and quantum mechanics.
Which seek to prove that all fundamental forces are just different facets of a single underlying field.
Exactly. Now, how does the universe actually operate within this framework?
Right, how do they interact?
The ancient texts explain that the process of creation happens when prana, the energy, strikes Akasha, the matter, with repeated blows.
Like striking a drum.
Yes, and this continuous interaction causes immense vibrations, which they called vayu. This localized friction creates heat, known as tejas, and eventually the energy condenses the undifferentiated ether into solid physical matter.
But if creation is just prana condensing Akasha into solid matter through vibration and heat, then it stands to reason the process works in reverse.
Has to.
Matter can be violently dissolved back into pure energy by manipulating those same vibrations.
That is the logical conclusion when you look at the mechanics of the prana and Akasha relationship. You can unbind the matter.
When you apply that physics framework to the battlefield, the true nature of an astra becomes perfectly clear.
It does.
An astra is not a physical projectile.
Yeah.
It is the weaponized manipulation of prana. By using the exact resonant frequency, the mantra of the warrior acts as a conduit. They direct a highly concentrated beam of prana, of pure energy, to violently disrupt the Akasha, the physical matter, of their target.
You're describing the literal definition of a targeted frequency laser or a directed energy weapon.
Exactly.
You are using a specific vibrational frequency to direct a catastrophic discharge of ambient universal energy onto a localized point in space and matter.
The physical bow and arrow they talk about in the text might just be the focal point.
Like an antenna.
Yeah, they could be the antenna or the physical conductor used to aim the energy. The actual weapon is the frequency and the manipulated prana.
It completely changes how you imagine these epic battles described in the Mahabharata.
It really does. It wasn't armies just clashing with iron swords. It was masters of frequency manipulating the fabric of reality to unleash localized kinetic and thermal devastation.
And when you realize the sheer scale of the energy being manipulated, the descriptions of mountains rending and skies roaring make perfect logical sense.
They weren't exaggerating.
No, they were observing the violent conversion of Akasha back into prana. The catastrophic release of energy when solid matter is forcibly unbound by a targeted frequency.
Wow. We have established a highly technical framework for how these weapons could theoretically operate.
We have.
But if we accept that these ancient targeted frequency weapons existed and that they were capable of vaporizing matter by manipulating the very fabric of the universe, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Was there any defense against them?
Ah.
I mean, if a warrior perfectly fuses Sabda and Artha, locks onto your position, and fires a Brahmastra at you, are you just entirely out of luck?
The texts actually address countermeasures. And the answer is hidden in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika.
What does it say?
The text delivers a fascinating and highly specific mechanism for defense. It states that a yogi who has achieved the absolute peak state of meditation, a state known as Samadhi, becomes completely invulnerable to any weapon.
Completely invulnerable.
Yes, and unassailable by any mantras or yantras.
I have to challenge this.
Go for it.
We just spent 10 minutes establishing a rigorous physics framework for how an acoustic frequency can trigger a massive release of plasma or kinetic energy.
Right.
How does sitting still and meditating stop a targeted frequency laser that dissolves matter? That sounds exactly like the magical exaggeration we are trying to look past.
It sounds like magic until you look at how frequency and energy interact with consciousness within the prana and Akasha framework.
Okay, explain that.
Why are they invulnerable? Because, as the texts explain, weapons and mantras direct power through the individual mind and the localized physical prana of the target.
Localized.
Yes. A frequency weapon needs a target with a specific resonant frequency it can lock onto and disrupt. It attacks the individual's localized energy field.
It needs a receiver. It needs a distinct physical or energetic signature to interact with, like a radar needing a solid object to bounce off of.
Exactly. In the state of samadhi, the yogi's individual consciousness merges completely with the infinite.
They transcend.
They transcend the physical dimensions of localized time, space, and vibration. Their localized individual frequency essentially dissolves into the universal background of Akasha and Prana.
Like trying to target a single specific drop of water after it has already fallen into the ocean.
That's a perfect analogy. The signature is gone.
Wow.
The localized signature vanishes entirely. To a frequency weapon, a yogi in samadhi is essentially a non-existent target.
Because there's nothing to lock onto.
The laser cannot lock onto them because there is no isolated individual Akasha or Prana left to disrupt. They have stepped outside the physics of the localized battlefield altogether.
So the energy just passes right through them?
The weapon's energy passes right through the space they occupy, or rather, it cannot interact with them because they are no longer operating on a frequency of physical vulnerability.
It is the ultimate defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Achieved not through forging thicker iron armor or building deeper bunkers, but through a total shift in conscious dimension. It relies on the exact same physics principles as the weapon itself, manipulating your own frequency to render the attacking frequency obsolete.
It creates a perfect symmetry in the ancient texts.
It really does.
The ultimate destructive power is the mastery of localized frequency, and the ultimate defensive power is the complete dissolution of localized frequency.
That structural symmetry forces us to critically evaluate everything we think we know about the past and how we interpret ancient literature.
Absolutely.
Think about how this reframes history for you as a listener. The next time you are reading what is categorized as an ancient myth, or even just analyzing the acoustics of a simple chant, remember the depth of the framework we analyze today.
It's all connected.
You might actually be looking at ancient physics manuals that have been carefully encoded in spiritual texts for thousands of years, waiting for our vocabulary to catch up.
Waiting for us to understand.
Right. It is a powerful reminder to respect the profound, very real mechanics of vibration, focus, and energy in your own daily life.
It certainly recontextualizes the legacy of human knowledge. I want to leave you with one final thing to mull over as you process all of this.
Let's hear it.
We've seen today how ancient Indian texts perfectly understood that matter and energy are fundamentally just varying frequencies of vibration, a concept that our modern quantum physics has really only recently begun to mathematically confirm.
Sure.
If they understood the unified field of energy millennia ago, what other impossible feats or magical abilities described in these texts are simply advanced, applied technologies we just haven't rediscovered yet?
A perfect question to end on, and exactly why we dig into these sources. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the narratives, keep analyzing the texts, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.